Good morning. You're welcome. If you don't mind, we're going to wait for 2 minutes so we'll be able that everybody enters into the webinar. It's time to, I think, Alfredo, that we can start.
Yeah, fine.
Okay. So while the rest of the people is entering into this webinar, I want you to introduce myself. I'm Ana Perez, the General Manager of GSC. I know that you already, so many of you know me, but let me please to introduce to Alfredo Serrano, which is the marketing manager, but also a consultant. All of us, we come from laboratories, so we've lived the same problems you are facing too, and we also have faced poor performance sometimes in proficiency test and the assessment. No? We are in Madrid. And is this webinar talking about what to do when you got a poor performance in the proficiency test results, what you have to do, or ideas about how to face this problem. It's going to last like 45 minutes, more or less, and at the end of the exposition, you will be able to make any questions you have, and if we have time, we solve it, we answer it in live. Otherwise, you feel free, please, to send us the questions by mail through your distributor in your country, or directly to us if you already have our email address, that I'm sure you have it. And at the end also of the webinar, we will ask you to fulfill a query. For us, it's very important. First, because we have the idea if you like the exposition we've made. And secondly, because we want to have the chance to know which are the topics that you are more interested in. So we can make new webinars talking about the real issues you have in your laboratory and related to proficiency test, and make a time to talk about it in new encounters. First, I'm going to share a presentation. The ones that have followed the previous webinars know that this is not our normal way to do the webinars, but in this case, because the topic is quite very serious, it's not that the rest is not serious. We wanted you to be very focused on the sheets, so you can be more concentrated. How to investigate poor performance in proficiency testing? Well, I told you that we know well, and we have the experience, because GSC, and let me to introduce GSC for 1 minute, is a company that exists since 31 years ago already. And we were born in the aim of helping laboratories by services. We don't sell products. We just give the chance to help to the laboratories by consulting, by internal audits, by training, and by proficiency tests. This is the service that we are now, since 1 year ago, trying to introduce also in Europe, because by now we are very known in Spain, because we have 31 years of history, and we've been working, as you see, with the national reference laboratories and international organizations, as well as some of us are assessors that we are working for the accreditation bodies in Spain. It's called ENAC. So we have some experience in this field. Of course, we have our accreditation under 17043 by the Spanish accreditation body, but also through one of the North American accreditation bodies that exist. And so, to go further, if you like, in this case, well, you know that laboratories will face sometimes, likely occasionally, a poor performance in a PT scheme, in a sample, in a parameter, or in several. And when this happens, when this occurs, the laboratory should acknowledge it. This is what Eurachem says. Carry out an investigation and document all the possible reasons, causes, even if at least the laboratory decides not to take any specific actions on it. So in this webinar, we will go through all the path that we have to follow, we should follow to best address this kind of events. And in the conviction of a good management of these kind of poor performances will make your system stronger and will give confidence to their partners. I think that to have a good implementation of a quality system as 17025, the quality system you have implemented in your laboratory, because you finally, I'm sure you're accredited or close to be, it's very, very important, because it's not, it doesn't save us from making mistakes, but it enforces us to find the causes and to implement actions that go in the direction of solving completely the problem and don't go to the same errors once and once again. So, Alfredo, can you explain a little bit how to face in the first response a poor performance in proficiency testing?
Well, Anna, mainly we need to focus, or we should focus on three main areas. Your historical results, also questionable performance, and the trends that the laboratory could detect. When we talk about historical results, we should check if this is a problem that happened before. There is any inconsistent past results, or there's any lack of historical benchmark. When we talk about the questionable performance, we should try to detect if there's any unexplained anomalies or any deviation from the standard procedures that has occurred during the essay or during the time the PT was performed. Maybe sometimes is the staff has any issue, or we have any issue with the equipment. Well, we will go in detail later about this. And also, it's important that the laboratory has a record, an historical record of the trends that could help them to detect any trends, not only for analysis, but also for equipments that can make detect deviation of the function in these equipments, any drifts or whatever.
If you have a trend, is something that has not much importance today, but it can come surely in the future to a poor performance of the proficiency test.
It will be
So
bad news in the future.
recording trends and investigating trends is also something very, very important. In fact, it's one of the points of the ISO 17025 standard. So, as you told, the depth, how far we need to go in the investigation, it depends on several factors. One of these is the importance of the analysis, no, the importance of the test. Also, how often we have found unsatisfactory results is also something to take into consider, and the evidence of this trend. But you have to focus also in this first response in the evaluation of the PT. Sometimes we were enrolled in a PT which is not completely fit for our purpose, because the matrix, the kind of sample, or the method we are used is not like as representative as we would like to have. But because we have normally laboratories have not the chance to choose very easily in time what the correct or the exact PT is of their interest. Sometimes, we enroll in rounds which can give us poor performance because it was not really fit for our purpose. But also, sometimes during the proficiency test, um, some things happen, no? And if anything that could cause poor performance in participants is discovered during the performance of the proficiency tests, then in the report, the provider should give an explanation that can help you to explain maybe something that has affected you and give you a poor performance.
Yeah, but
But
Anna,
that's
the reality is that this is often not the real cause and not so evident reasons for the poor
no.
performance. So what we do next?
It's very hard, no, to find the evident reason. And in this case, we ask you, Alfredo, it's very important to maximize the investigation, no, to maximize the chances to discover the real reason of the poor performance. And then how would you face the investigation in the aim
In
of
this case?
maximize the chances to find the real cause, the root cause of the problem?
Well, for me, first thing first, we need to involve not only the staff, but also the quality management and the management of the laboratory in the investigation. Uh, we are all affected, the laboratory, its impact by this result. So it is important that everybody feels aware of this. So when we talk about the staff and the management, we should investigate things like raw data, going to the initial data we get from the analysis. Also, check if our internal quality control works fine that day or works fine in this period of time. And for sure, we should check what was our performance in previous round, because this is something that is punctual or this is something that has already happened to me.
Systematic, no? It's systematic. Mhm. And don't forget that also, and I talk as proficiency testing provider, we encourage you to investigate what happened in the PT. First, we could take a look to the overall performance of participants. If there are a lot of participants that have got a poor performance, there should be an explanation or something wrong has happened during the PT. And something very important, not Alfredo, to
Yeah.
know how the proficiency testing provider has made the assessment, how they have calculated our CT score.
Yeah, we have
If
two main ways to calculate, and this sigma could come from experimental values or could come from an objective source like a standard
regulation.
or a
Mhm,
regulation.
mhm.
So, which one do you think is more important in this case?
Well, I think that laboratory should focus very much in the source of the sigma used for CT score calculation, and that makes me think that we're going to repeat, Alfredo, one of the webinars we made in the beginning of the year in January, talking about some basic statistics, so you can understand better that. But at least a target in the deviation, the maximum deviation that we accept in our proficiency test is very important to be set from the beginning. So you should know from the beginning, even before enrolling to the proficiency test, where or how is going to be the way of making this calculation, this target, what it comes from, etc. In our case, in our reports, you know it from the beginning in our webpage when you enroll in the PTs, because it's published. And afterwards, in the report, is still marked where the CIT score come from. Always is a target, and which is the source. If it's a regulation, as you mentioned before, or historical values, or even coming from analytical standard, no, or general models like orbits. Everybody knows this kind of sources.
So this is one of the factors we need to consider before to enroll.
Yes, yes. So the path you all need to follow when a poor performance is found is to investigate the cause. This is what I've been talking about. And for that, you have different tools like diagrams, also like the fishbone diagrams as well, graphics, or the 5 questions tool that we make some example later on at the end of the webinar.
So then you have determined the root cause, or I, at least you think you have determined the root cause of this poor performance. Then we need to go and implement some actions to try to solve this. We need to apply these corrective actions all around the laboratory and all the activities that could be impacted by this result.
So consider the implications, no? If we find a mistake, we can check out, and we need to investigate the effects in the past results, in other results that we've been giving to our customers in the routine.
Yeah, but this is not only a matter to take action, it's important, but it's also important that we documented this in a proper way. We need to make a good documentation, because that the things that are not documented, then that never happen for the
No.
auditors and for the quality management system. So it is important that we execute, but also record our actions.
The evidence, the evidence, and at least we need to check the effectiveness of any corrective actions we have already implemented, just to measure how we have succeeded, and that to check that the problem won't come back again in the future. So this is the general path. But in the case of how to investigate and which are the most regular issues that we find in the laboratory when we got this poor performance, we like to classify the reasons and then the investigation in 3 categories, in 3 kinds. One is the clerical investigation, like administrative errors. Also, the investigate, as we've told you, the PT itself, and also technical investigation. So technical issues, technical mistakes, which are the most unlikely, if you like, desirable. And so if we talk about clerical investigations, this kind of mistakes of errors that we make, that has not nothing to see with the technical competence of the laboratory, then which kind of errors we can find, Alfredo, in this category?
Yeah, when we talk about clerical investigation or clerical errors in this case, we are talking about things like recording the results from the instrument badly because you have a bad transmission of the information. Also, that you have any problem when reporting to the PT provider. You are reporting the results and you make a mistake reporting these results. Also, it comes when we use wrong units, we make a mistake between different scales, or also with figures we report. And also, it could happen. It's not very likely, but it happens sometimes that we mistake the sample, we switch sample codes, and we report a result that does not correspond with the actual PT.
This is happen sometimes, but if this is the reason, if this regularly happen, the laboratory need to investigate, to focus on the quality management system. So in action to correct the reasons, why all this is happening. And if we are talking about the PT investigation, we have already been explaining and chatting about it. But besides the fact that the PT cannot be appropriate, uh, also some other kind of things can happen. For example, you don't receive under the right conditions the samples, or you receive an item that it doesn't look like very much like what you receive in the routine. So you have to manipulate it, you have to mix it, you have to several operations. That means that there is a risk of losing analytes, of contamination, etc. So this is something you need to investigate, and as far as you can, minimize the samples that need to be manipulated before testing. And also, something very important is to check out if the proficiency testing provider has used and has calculated a CETA score with a more narrow parameters, more strict parameters that was foreseen to use, no? Like one of the cases we will discuss further on. Um, anyway, and in any of those cases, you are encouraged to discuss all these findings to your PT provider. This is a good start because you want to know for sure if you made a mistake, and the PT provider wants to improve any of the reasons that could give to the laboratories the chance to have a poor performance without deserving this, when it's not a problem of a technical problem. No? So let's go to the toughest
The worst
point.
case
No, it's
scenario.
the worst cases is when we go to a technical investigation and we find technical issues, like for example the staff. Maybe we have a fast rotation of personnel, of staff, and we got new and not completely trained people. Also, we can find problems in the way we storage or handled the samples, because, for example, we didn't follow the instructions of the proficiency testing provider. But there are more, not Alfredo?
Yeah,
More
also
technical reasons.
yeah, also the error could come from our equipment. We have any issue with them, and we should try to detect if there's any sign of the data that we can take to collect information about sensitivity, or other parameters that could have affected the results from the PT. Also, it could happen that we are using out of date reactive or reagents. So maybe the poor performance comes from a problem with this. And
Yeah,
for sure, it is important also to check if the quality controls are working fine, and we don't have any problem during that day or during a period of time near to the time we perform the PT. So we could check our reference materials, duplicates, control between calibrations, and how they evolve during this time.
yeah. And don't forget that we are not free of having contaminations from our environmental conditions, for the material, the reagents that we have used. No, glass and septune, etc. And the spreadsheets problems that I think that we all have faced sometime, a problem with a spreadsheet that has not properly worked or has not been completely or well validated. But we must think that the technical problems can appear in any step of the analytical procedure. But there are still more, no? More examples of findings in technical investigation.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
for example, mistakes when we apply a dilution factor or a calculation, no, that make us to give a result that is 100 times lower or 100 times higher, etc. So those kind of things are normally easy to find. Sometimes we don't follow the procedure that we want to evaluate, no? The one our standard operation procedure we don't follow properly,
or it could
or
happen that we make any mistakes
mistake.
during the execution of the assay that day. So we need to check if other items that are similar or are in the same analytical series are working just fine, or we must know if they are involved in this problem and rule out, for example, false negative, positive contaminations. Well, let's
Yeah.
check.
Yeah, for example, if in microbiology test, you are analyzing a batch of samples in which is involved the proficiency test sample, and none of them were negative or all of them were positive, maybe we have the chance to know that we had poor performance of our culture media or a problem of contamination. But we can check some other parameters that we test with the same method. This is the case of multi-parameter tests, no? Where when we got a non-satisfactory result in one of the analytes, but no in the rest of the analytes that comes out from the same round, from the same batch of testing in chromatography, for example, then there must be a punctual problem with the analyte affected. But if we got a poor performance in all of them, then
The program should be other.
the investigation should go to in a different direction. And
And
definitely, if we don't find the reason, then unfortunately we would need to investigate the validation that we made to the method, and even to complement it or to review certain points of this validation, and even making changes in some steps to improve some of these steps, as I showed. But Alfredo, this is just for laugh, for laugh, for everything, because I'm sure that you are not involved on this kind of under pressure conditions. No, at least we know that our performance is going to be assessed by assessor, but by the accreditation body, at least. So some laboratories fade away to some pressure conditions and do not perform the test as they usually do. And they treat the sample, the item, like something
special
special.
way.
So when you don't follow the normal procedure, like you are riding a horse in this strange way, and nothing good can go out of that. So things strange happen sometimes with the laboratory's minds, like modifying instructions of the exercise to perform the test under more favorable conditions. I don't make such dilutions. I make less dilutions, so I can make more likely find better detection limits, etc. No, or for
Yeah, it also
example,
could happen that they don't respect the repeatability conditions, and we make more results than needed, or we mix methodologies, or maybe there's some problems with staff, equipment, etc.
so making a higher number of measurements that required. No, we make like well, in the regular condition, we would make 1 or 2 tests. And in this case, with making a proficiency test, we make 5 tests and we make an average and a square root of this. And then, we ask to all the staff to know which would be the best result to report.
Yeah, and all the staff in the laboratory performs the PT, and we get the best result.
Yeah, the one we think is the
We
best.
think is the best. Yeah,
Yeah, but even sometimes we just take a look to
this
a phone
Pinocchio.
call and we discuss results with other participants. And
Yeah,
even if
worst
you think,
case and worst case will be when you not only discuss the results with other participants to try to share some information, but when you don't present results that you have obtained, but other people's results
even if you think this is amazing, this is something that um,
happen.
sometimes we have found it. We have found this kind of behaviors just because of the pressure of having something good as a performance. So they are not in force to explain to the assessor what happened, no? To the accreditation body assessor what happened if got in a bad performance. Um, so if we don't find the reason, apparently, at least we think that we should, what you all do, I think, is to repeat the test. If you have sample enough or you request additional sample to the PT provider, you conduct a second test to confirm if it was something random error, or it's something systematical that you are committing. And if you repeat the test, you have to verify to do it in the exactly same conditions, as close as possible, with the same equipment, with the same staff, also, because if we change conditions, we cannot got conclusions from where the mistake could come from. No, sometimes even we make small changes in the method, like improving some of these stages, digestions, filtration, extraction, heat treatment, etc. And don't forget that we have to check that the problem doesn't occur again. So we normally enroll very fast, if possible, in a new PT round. And if not possible, we always can go to other kind of tools. No? If we've made small changes, we have to check these changes by new proficiency test rounds. Okay. Um, and what more, for further actions we need to do?
Sorry?
No, which further actions we can
Yeah,
make?
I lost you for a moment. Well, after the implement these corrective actions, we can make some new assessment of the effectiveness through enroll into a new PT round, try to repeat this PT round, or maybe you can use what we call quick PT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and analyze the results before, no, to know if there is any impact in the results you've obtained before. And if you ask me about the quick PT, this is something I want to tell to everybody now. Quick PT is something that it's a service that we offer to our customers since of this kind of solution is to resolve nonconformities from, for example, previous PTs. So this is like a fast sample that we send, and we can check out if the changes we've made were okay, were appropriate for making or giving or having good performance. But also, this quick PT is used for some other reasons, like having to have evidence of the corrective actions we implemented in our laboratory, or we used to got a good example of qualification of our staff, to verify changes in the methods, and so on. You must
It's a
think that
powerful tool. It's a powerful
yeah,
tool,
yeah,
not
yep,
only
yes.
for poor
Mhm.
performance in PT, but also for the qualification and quality control of our laboratory.
Yes, you must think that PTs happen in a certain time. So you have not every day the chance to enroll in any kind of PT that fits for your purpose. So this is something that can
So
help
you
you
have more
to
available this kind
is
of
more
PTs.
available. But in fact, you can visit our webpage and see which are the quick PTs, the kind of samples and parameters that we have in this case, or you can ask to your distributor. So the fact is that you receive a sample. In 2 days, you test the sample and you introduce the results in the web page. You don't know the sample, the results. You don't know it
It's not like
previously.
a reference material, but a blind
Yeah,
sample.
yes, it's a blind sample. And when you introduce your results, you receive the evaluation of your results as a set score or evaluation. So in its set score will be a quantitative result, or if it's a qualitative result, a satisfactory or not satisfactory.
And I find this like really useful and very interesting.
Mm.
Could be made tailor-made.
Yes, although I've told you that there is a list of quick PTs available in our webpage, you can ask to your distributor or to us directly if you need anything that is not there, right? Like in microbiology, for example. Okay, so talk to them or to us directly. And then we go to action. Eh? Alfredo?
Yeah, because everything we told was very theoretical. I need to learn all these ideas. So let's make this more practical.
Right.
Okay,
So we have prepared 4 cases, no?
we're
Four
discussing
different
four
cases.
cases. Okay, four. Let's go for the first one.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
then we have an environmental laboratory that has provided a result in a PT skin for cadmium with a concentration in water, and the result was poor, not satisfactory. We get a CT score of minus 4.5, although the daily internal controls perform well. What could happen here, Anna?
Well, first of all, remember that the CT score should be under 2, a value of 2 to be to represent a good performance. So taking this into account, I explain you what we found when we investigate the causes. So reading the report, we saw that the consensus value for the cadmium was 12.5 micrograms per liter. And the laboratory wrote a value of 0.013 micrograms per liter. And in the first insight, we thought that it seemed to be a milligram liter instead of microgram liters, or that they reported instead of 30.0 in milligrams liter. So we also investigate which was the sigma target that was used. In this case, was used Thomson, the general model, which is the 22% of the consensus value. In this case, was 275 micrograms per liter. And here you got, Alfredo, the two set scores that were calculated. The one that was calculated by the provider in the beginning with the result of 0.013, and what the laboratory recalculated when showing and see and watching the raw data and the results,
They discover.
realized that they made a mistake, a clerical mistake in the way of the units were reported. And in this case, the CT score would have been 0.2.
So then the laboratory investigate the process and discover that the mistake comes from an incorrect unit conversion factor. No?
Yes. But
Well,
since
then
the
we
samples they normally analyze the results were reported in a different unit that the one used in the PT in the PT report in the PT round. Then we could say that the regular sample results were not affected. So we
so
have followed all these things. So the corrective action should be to pay attention on what the client uh, is demanding as units, because this could happen to other clients also.
okay,
Not every client could ask for
same
limits
units
or in the
or
same
same
unit.
reporting units.
Yes. So let's
Well, let's discuss
this
another example. In this
yeah.
case, we have an agri-food laboratory that has provided results in a PT scheme for done concentration in breakfast cereals with a plus 20% deviation from the assigned value. Although, again, the quality control performs well this time. So, could
In this
happen here.
case, taking a look to the report, we saw that the consensus value was 405 micrograms per kilo, and that the sigma target used by the provider, the sigma used in the calculation of CT score, was 28.5. That comes from experimental results from the laboratories that were participating in the PT. But uh, thinking about which should have been the how wide the sigma could be, the laboratory knows that that there is
A
a regulation
regulation.
that says that the precision for this test can go until the 25% of the result. So there is some kind of uncertainty that is already foreseen for this kind of parameters in such a small amounts. And also, if we take a look to a deviation of a plus 20% from the consensus value, anyone that makes this kind of test knows that it's a quite good performance. It's not to be so far as the result of the Z score shows. In fact, the laboratory result was 495, 20% more than the consensus value. And the set score that the proficiency testing provider gave us was descriptive. That means that the sigma used come from the experimental result of the laboratories and was 3.2 in this case. But if we recalculate the set score with the precision mentioned in this regulation, the result of the laboratory is completely inside the foreseen population, and it gets a CT score even under one. No.
Yeah. So this is a clear case where you can see the importance of choosing a provider that justify the sigma that they use to make the calculus for the CT score, because it could affect massively the performance or the calculated performance of the laboratory in things like this, as we mentioned at the initial of this webinar. So, in this case, the laboratory investigated the process and discovered that the mistake was due to the sigma for proficiency assessment used by the PT provider. They use a very narrow sigma in this case that affect our results of the performance.
So satisfactory results seem to be not satisfactory when they are. And the third case for micro, this is a example of how to use the technique of the five whys, no?
Well, yeah,
And
in this case, we have a laboratory that are performing food and feed analysis, obtain poor performance, sorry, in the scores of the Listeria monocytogenes enumeration because of the number of microorganisms found was underestimated. The laboratory investigation saw an issue in incubation time and temperature applied by the analyst. The laboratory found that the analyst used an out-of-date procedure.
Yeah, this is an example of Eurachem that gives has been given by Eurachem, and in this case, well, the question is that why the laboratory got a poor growth of Listeria monocytogenes in this case, and the laboratory found that they used an incorrect time and temperature incubation. And why? Because they applied a procedure that had a mistake in the description of the method. Why? Because this method was not updated anymore. They used an out-of-date version of the procedure. And why this happened? Because the revised, the updated procedure was not properly distributed. And why that happened? In this case, the laboratory discovered that the person that was in charge of distributing documents was overloaded, was a workload too high, and was very likely that makes mistakes or had not the time to distribute the new procedures during through all the personnel that have to use it. So this is like a very extreme.
This is a perfect example of the technique of the 5 whys that we can use to get to the bottom, get to the root cause of a problem in PT.
And let's go to the last one, no? And is you want to tell it?
We have a laboratory that performing pesticides in water gets a theta score non-satisfactory due to underestimation in most of the compounds under investigation. Sample was sent split into bottles. It means that the matrix was water, it was in one bottle, and then the standard that were prepared in organic solvent comes in another bottle separately. That's this time when we perform the analysis, the QC performs well.
The quality control was well. Well, in this case, we evaluated the possible causes, and in this case, as we found underestimation of the compounds in the water, we tried to follow why there was this estimation. We lost the compounds. What we did was to repeat the test because we had still some sample. And we got a result of 45 micrograms per liter instead of 31. So we got a better result and a good performance in this case. But what have changed from the previous test to this repetition? Well, we had to make a new preparation in the case of the sample because we received split the sample. So we got another bottle of water and make again the preparation. And also we made new standards for calibration. At this point, we really didn't know at all which was the reason, but checking out the response on previous calibrations, we see that the response of our device of the chromatogram in the first test, what you can see in orange in the graphic, the response was higher, better slope and higher response than the second test where we got new standards, new prepared standards. So after watching this is what this is in the graphic you have the answer. Well, if you make the interpolation in the orange curve, you got a 31 micrograms liter result, while if you do it in the new standard curve, you got a 45 micrograms liter.
So Anna, one thing, we said that the quality control performs well that day. Why could this happen?
Yes. So you will see what happened. We didn't detect it because we realized that the preparation of the cure was made with the same standards as we used to spike the quality control. So if something happened with the standard in calibration and it's the same one in the quality control, it's impossible to detect it.
So they
Okay.
come from the same bottle, same problem then.
Yes, yeah. So if the solvent, which was the reason, the solvent were not the standard were not well preserved, and the solvent evaporated, then the concentration, the real concentration in the standards increased, and that made the effect of underestimate the concentration. So what we should do is to change this methodology, no? And make sure that the standards and the quality control are prepared with separated solutions, at least so last solutions, and to make a study and extension to other methods that can be affected by this way of procedures. Okay, so at the end, remember, all of you, that the overall process does not end when you got the report from the proficiency testing provider. That all the accreditation bodies ask laboratories to make a report, some kind of record of in conclusions about their performance. So they need to assess their own results and inform about all the conclusions they got about their own performance. If needed, the actions that have to take, the laboratories have to take, implementing the strategies in response to any no satisfactory result, and review your plan, adjusting the participation plan according to the history and the results and the changes in the methods if you needed to make this kind of changes. So, Alfredo, this is all for the moment for this webinar. And now, if any question, I don't know if you can, you have the questions,
Yeah,
Alfredo, if there is
I
any.
I have a couple of questions from the people here. The first question will be if it's that important to make a good documentation of the poor performance of the PT.
It's very, very important. It's as you said, no? What is not written never exists. If we could have make investigation that is, if all the steps are not documented, it may be a problem because, as I said in the beginning, it's not important. It's not important that you got a poor performance. Nobody is free of making mistakes, no? But a powerful management system comes from the capacity of the laboratory to react, to investigate, and to solve. And this is something that, if it's clearly written, is very appreciated by the assessors in the accreditation bodies. This is my opinion.
Okay. We also have another question that is how can we know how the theta score is calculated?
Well, you need to take a look very deeply in the report, in the PT report. They should explain very clearly how is this calculated, where it comes from. This is not, unfortunately, very clear in all the PT providers'
Providers.
reports. In our case, I repeat it again. You can see it if you are in our web page, you select a proficiency test, and for each parameter, you know which is going to be the target and where it comes from. You will see it also in the final report. But it's true that in some PT schemes, it's very hard to know where it comes from. So ask to your provider. They should be more clear in this aspect because all depends on how the CETA score is calculated. Sometimes that your result is not so as bad as you expected when you see a high CETA score.
There's
So
another question from Martin, who asked if is mentioned repeat test part of the price of the original PT I guess he means that if they need another sample, it will be included in the first pay they make.
Normally isn't, because when the laboratory sometimes have is some remaining amount of the original sample. I know that normally we don't give a lot of amount of sample, um, mainly because we don't want them laboratories to make what we were laughing about before, no, like 5 different repetition and so on. So normally, if you got remaining sample, you
You
use
need to
that,
pay.
and if you need any other, sometimes they are not always available because they are not as stable as in a long term stability. So, but anyway, in our case, for example, we got some for some tests, we have got the remaining samples, but they are not included in the price of the original PT.
Sometimes, if there's any problem with transportation or things like that,
In
we
this
provide
case,
another free sample to the
yes, yes,
laboratory
yes,
to,
yes,
but this should be addressed during the time that the PT is being performed. Like you
yes.
need to let know your distributor or ourselves that you have a problem with the sample right away.
Yeah. So for sure, if there is a problem during that comes from the provider or any other providers that we use as the transportation companies, etc. If we know it immediately when you receive the sample, we send a second sample instead, so you can start your participation in the best conditions.
Also, Martin asked, maybe this is a question for the other webinar you mentioned about the statistics. How do
Yes.
we calculate the theta score when in the quick PT schemes if you don't have enough participants?
Okay. Well, this is, I can make just a picture of it. Yeah? When you know that in fact, you shouldn't make a PT if you have not at least eight participants, no? Because you need to have the chance to have a good consensus value with a good uncertainty. But when you are not sure of that, the providers, what we do is that we use special samples, samples where we know which should be the result. So we don't work with consensus value in these cases. We work with a safety net. You know what I mean? So we
Sorry,
don't
I
need
don't mean to
consensus.
interrupt you, but the thing is, focus on Quick PT, our tool.
Of course, yeah.
How
No, no, no.
So the problem is in a quick PT, you don't need a lot of participation. You don't have a minimum quorum of participations because, well, you go.
Yeah, because this works like a reference material. The difference is that we know the result. We know which is the amount that you should got as result, but you don't know it. So represents more a blind sample as when you are enrolled in a PT, in a regular PT. So it's not important to have one or more participants in this quick PT because the samples come from another source, not from the results of the PT of the laboratories in this round. This is
And
why
this is and this is
you
why
can
it's so powerful
anytime.
because you can use it whenever you need it.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, also Manuel has a question about if we are going to issue any diploma or any confirmation that the people follow this webinar. It could be upon request. If you need something, we can provide a
Yes.
certificate.
Yes, no problem. And also, you will be available. We will send to all of you that answer the query this presentation, so you can remember this terrible moment where you got a poor performance, but watching it now, like in a different perspective, that there is there can be a solution, and there is a way to documentate, to report, and to record all these investigations.
Okay. Well, I think we have another one. Let me check. No, that's it. It's
Yes,
Manuel
you
again
need to
saying
have
that.
a written proof. You're
Yes.
right. Everything has to be written.
Uh, Completely right. So I think we
Nice
are
question. Nice
almost done,
answer.
Anna. There's no more
Yes.
questions. Or if you have, as Anna told at the beginning of the webinar, you can use your provider or your local provider or send us directly. And we will also publish this webinar in our YouTube channel. You have the link in the invitation to this webinar. And I guess this is all for today, Anna.
Yes, we inform you of about the next webinars, and please feel free to ask for any topic you are interested in. And I'm very grateful. I thank you very much to all of you that have been shared this hour, being so busy as we are in these times, and hope to see you again. Thank you very much.
And just one last thing, please remember to complete the survey at the end of the webinar. So we hope to see you in next one and have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.